Hello and welcome back to Culinary Haven. This week on the 25th of January we celebrate Burns Night, the birthday of the famous Scottish poet Robert Burns. This year for this occasion we've decided to make a traditional Scottish starter, a fish soup called Cullen Skink. The name comes from the fishing village of Cullen in the northeast of Scotland. The soup has its distinct flavour. It's smoky and creamy and is traditionally served with crusty bread. It's a real comfort food. Let's begin. Cullen Skink is traditionally made with the most famous Scottish smoked fish, Arbroath Smokies, which is a pair of haddock tied together and hung in oak caskets, and it has a very distinct flavour. If you can't get that, you can use a piece of smoked haddock with the skin on, about 500 grams. We'll also need 3 onions, 1 larger onion for the soup and 2 smaller onions for the fish stock. And we'll need 1 leek, which we separate and use the white part for the soup and the green part for the fish stock. We'll also need 3 potatoes, about 500 grams, half a kilo, and in the end we'll add a small tub of single cream. And the seasoning is black pepper and allspice, bayleaf and salt. We'll start with preparing the fish stock. We'll need 2 pots, one to prepare the fish stock and cook the fish, and the other one to make the soup. First of all, we'll take a pan this size, take the Arbroath Smokies, cut off the twine. I'll just cut them in half because they will not fit in this pot otherwise, like this. Roughly chop, actually just quarter, the onions and the leek. The onions and the leek, we'll discard them after the stock is made, so it just goes in. The second one, doesn't matter the size or shape, the second one. And now we're going to add 2 liters of water, bring it to a boil and add a couple of bay leaves and a few allspice berries. Let's put the water in first. So we're adding the water, put a couple of bay leaf, they're tiny, so broken in half, so like this, and a few allspice berries, and gives a very nice flavour to fish stock. And now we're going to cover it with the lid and bring it to a boil. So the stock is boiling now and we're going to cook it for 10 minutes, adding a teaspoon of salt. We'll cook it with the lid slightly opened for 10 minutes on a low heat. As the fish stock is cooking, we're going to prepare the vegetables for the soup. We're going to finely chop the onion, and finely slice the white part of the leek. In another pot where we're going to make the soup, we're going to heat 1 tablespoon of rapeseed oil and 1 tablespoon of butter. We're using a Scottish cold press rapeseed oil. It's a great oil for cooking and frying because it has a very high smoking point. Sorry about the name though. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to name it that. Anyway, 1 tablespoon of rapeseed oil and 1 tablespoon of butter, and we'll slowly cook the onions and the leek. The stock is ready. We're going to put the lid back on and take it off the heat. Now we're going to heat a tablespoon of rapeseed oil mixed with a tablespoon of butter. Turn the heat up a little bit, wait until the butter melts, and then we'll add the chopped onions and the chopped leek. butter has melted, and now we're adding the onions and the leek. And we're going to turn the heat down and cook it on a low heat for 10 minutes. I'll just give it a stir first. Cover it with the lid and turn the heat way down and cook it for 10 minutes. We'll just let it sweat. We want the onion and the leek to cook and soften without getting any color. The onions and the leek are cooking in a mixture of rapeseed oil and butter. Rapeseed oil prevents the butter from burning, and the butter gives richness and flavor. So that's the good combination to cook them together. And in the meantime, we're going to prepare the potatoes, which we're going to cube. There are many different variations of cooking Cullen skink. Some people cook it in milk, whole milk. We prefer to cook it in water and then add some cream in the end. There are also different versions of different spices and different vegetables, such as garlic and fennel bulbs, but this is the version that we like. I think it's the closest to the original authentic recipe from the fishing village of Cullen. We're chopping the potatoes into smallish cubes because the soup is supposed to be thick and creamy, and some people actually mash the potatoes in the end to make it really thick. But if it's a floury potato and it's chopped into small cubes, it will break up and it will become thick and creamy itself. Some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger, and that the point of it is that the little bits will go into tiny pieces and make the soup thicker. Now we're going to strain the stock through a colander into a bowl, discard the vegetables and put the fish on a plate, and then later take the bones and the skin off and prepare the flakes to add to the soup when it's almost done. It smells amazing. The fish goes on the plate. We'll let it cool a little bit and then take the skin and the bones off. And now we're going to add the stock to the pot with the vegetables. So 10 minutes later, as you can see, the leek and the onions sweated down and are very soft but remain very pale, and that's what we're looking for. And now we're going to add the fish stock. And now I'm adding the potatoes. And a good turn of black pepper. Turn the heat up, bringing it to a boil, and then we'll turn it down again and cook until the potatoes are tender. Whilst the potatoes are cooking, we're going to prepare the fish. Remove the skin and the bones. Put the fish flakes into a bowl, and we'll add it to the soup in the very end, because the fish is already fully cooked. Be careful, there are some very tiny little sharp bones in there. It's been 15 minutes and the potatoes are ready, and you can check it with the back of a spoon. You just press it against the walls of the pot and it just breaks, makes the soup creamier and thicker. Just some of the potatoes. And now we're going to add the flakes of the fish. I'm sorry, the recording has suddenly stopped. I've just added a small tub of single cream to the pot, and we're just going to bring it to a boil and then switch off immediately after that. This is it. It's bubbling now, and just give it a last stir, put the lid back on and switch it off. The soup is ready. This is it. The soup is ready, and we sprinkled some fresh chives and parsley on top of it, and we're serving it with freshly baked wholemeal bread. Thank you for watching this episode of Culinary Haven. Until next time, bye.